The Battlefield franchise is on a huge sale right now, at least on Steam, and you might be wondering which of these games is worth buying and what do you get when you buy one of those games. So you have Battlefield 1 that is available for only €2 right now, Battlefield 5 is €2.50, Battlefield 2042 €3, and Battlefield 4 also only €2. The games are not on sale are Battlefield 3 and Hotline and Battlefield 6, but with these 4 games you get an essential part of the franchise, and I would say some of the best games of the franchise. Well, for the most part. So we're gonna start with Battlefield 4 because this is the oldest game out of all of the 4 of them. And when you're coming from Battlefield 6 and you're looking for another alternative when it comes to a modern Battlefield, you might be wondering if this is worth buying. I would say yes, especially for this price. What you get here on Steam, at least for €2, is the premium edition. So this is not the normal edition. It only says Battlefield 4, but you will get the premium edition, and this includes all of the maps and weapons and so on that were included in the DLCs back then. So you're not limited in the maps that you can play, and you're not limited in the weapons or anything, and you can join any of the servers and any of the community servers that are available. And in general, even though Battlefield 4 is pretty old already, I always think that it also has aged pretty well and that it's still a very, very good modern combat game. You get a single player experience that is worth playing, and you get a multiplayer that also still has a solid community, that has a lot of maps, a lot of weapons you can choose from, and it also has some of the best maps that the franchise ever had. It has the typical Battlefield all-out warfare combat with vehicles and infantry, and I always found that it has some very good team play and that it has a very enjoyable but also a little bit more challenging gameplay loop than maybe other Battlefield games. Plus, if you're coming from Battlefield 6, you might feel that Battlefield 4 is a bit more grounded and more military and more realistic compared to Battlefield 6, even though it might feel a bit more clunky, but that's just because of the age. Now, heading over to Battlefield 1, the game with the highest player count right now, here you get a very gritty and dirty and, in my opinion, amazing World War I experience. It's one of the few games in general that took on the challenge of portraying World War I, and I think it did an amazing job with this. Battlefield 1 was a bit more simplified when it comes to weapon upgrades or when it comes to customizing your weapon, so you won't have any attachments available, but you only have different weapon versions that you can choose from. Nonetheless, you have a great amount of weapons available. It has a great amount of maps as well, and with the version that you buy on Steam, this is the Revolution Edition, and this is just like the premium edition for Battlefield 4. The Revolution Edition includes the base game and all of the DLCs that were added back then. So you get all of the new weapons, all of the new maps, and can play everything with this edition. For me personally, this is still one of the best Battlefield games that I ever played, and I still enjoy this to this day because it gives you the sandbox and the all-out warfare and combined arms combat that Battlefield is known for, but it also is very, very gritty, it's very dirty, it has a very raw feeling, it's very chaotic. What needs to be said about Battlefield 1 as well is that it has one of the best atmospheres when it comes to a Battlefield game, and that the overall concept and how it is designed feels very well thought out and very polished. The game also has a single player experience, but this is not one campaign, but instead you have war stories where you have different stories that revolve around different persons, and the multiplayer is still played to this day. And in my opinion, this is one of the shooter games that you should play at least once in your life. Now, moving on to Battlefield 5, this is at roughly 16,000 players on Steam right now. Now, of course, I cannot tell you how it is for your region. I don't know where these players come from. I assume that a lot of players are playing in Europe, then there might be a number of players in North America, but how it is in other regions like Australia, for example, where I know that a lot of people always have issues finding full servers, but the worldwide player count is at 16 or roughly 17,000 right now. Here again, the version that you buy on Steam is the Definitive Edition. So this is the base game plus all of the gameplay content that was released in year 1 and year 2 of the release of the game. And because this kind of was a live service game already, you also get some of the best cosmetics that were part of these first 2 years. Now, Battlefield 5 takes you back to World War II, but you should not expect to see the classic World War II theaters in this game, because this was also a huge point of criticism that Battlefield 5 did not really feature them, but instead it features a lot of theaters that were not so well known and brings some maps on the table that maybe you have not played in any other World War II game before, which I think is great, but it's also missing some things with the more well-known theaters. When it comes to weapons, weapon customization, soldiers and so on, just like the former Battlefield games, so Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1, all of these 3 games have a traditional class system where weapons are locked to these classes, and specifically for Battlefield 5, the weapon customization was a little bit more extensive compared to Battlefield 1, but not as much as you have in Battlefield 6 right now, for example. But the gunplay of Battlefield 5 was, in my opinion, the best that the franchise ever had. Your bullets go where you shoot them, and the weapon recall or weapon behavior can be learned pretty fast. Overall, in atmosphere and everything and in the feel of the game, Battlefield 5 was already a step back compared to Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 1, but I think it still delivers a decent World War II experience and also a decent Battlefield experience. And then lastly, there is Battlefield 2042, a game that takes us slightly into the future, so the year 2042 or roughly around this time frame. And this brought some bigger changes to the table that were not so well received by the core Battlefield community. But whether you will like this or not, you have to decide for yourself. So Battlefield 2042 has partially dropped the class system. There is kind of a class system because gadgets are limited to the traditional classes, but within this class system you will find specialists instead of nameless soldiers, and these specialists have unique abilities and traits. Plus, the weapon system is completely open, so no matter which class you play or no matter which specialist you play, you can run every weapon that you want to. So you could play as an assault with a sniper rifle, for example, just like it is in Battlefield 6 now. And I gotta say, when it comes to the atmosphere, then Battlefield 2042 is probably the weakest game in the franchise. Nonetheless, Battlefield 2042 can be fun to play, especially if you like this near future scenario. They've also added some great maps over the live service of this game. They also reworked all of the vanilla maps throughout the live service, so a lot of the bad stuff that the game had or that the game was lacking when it launched was improved throughout its live service. And live service, of course, also means that all of the maps that were added throughout this time are free for you as well, no matter which edition of the game you buy. But there is also a normal edition and an elite edition, but here the elite edition only means that you will have access right from the start to all of the weapons, vehicles and gadgets that were added throughout the live service, and you won't have to unlock them. If you don't buy the elite edition, then you have to unlock this kind of stuff through assignments. So you have to do, I don't know, 50 kills with weapon X to unlock weapon Z. So if you want to have a game that is set in the future, and if you want to play a more modern game and one that is not as old as the other ones on this list, then Battlefield 2042 might be your best bet, but you should be aware of the differences that it has to the more traditional Battlefield titles that we had before. And yeah, that was it for today. I hope you found this video helpful and you found it interesting. And if you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. And I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.